Should Bergen County's ban on Sunday shopping, otherwise known as the Blue Laws, end? We'll discuss that issue next on Inside Bergen. Welcome to Inside Bergen. I'm your host, Bergen County Executive Dennis McNerney. The governor of New Jersey set off a firestorm of criticism when he proposed repealing Bergen County's Blue Laws, the county's long-standing ban on Sunday business. The governor says allowing all stores in Bergen to open on Sunday would generate maybe $65 million in sales tax revenue. Critics, like me, say this plan is misguided. Joining me to discuss this timely issue is Freeholder Vice Chairwoman Elizabeth Calabrese.
Thank you, County Executive, for inviting me here to be a part of Inside Bergen. You know, this issue has caught a lot of people, particularly me, off guard. And I'm so happy to have you here, Assemblywoman Connie Wagner. She represents the 38th Legislative District here in New Jersey. Welcome to Inside Bergen.
Thank you for having me here this afternoon.
And welcome. And Assemblywoman Wagner, you're opposed to the Blue Laws. Why is that?
Well, I've lived all my life in Bergen County, and I've lived in Paramus for 36 years, and I've enjoyed the protection that the Blue Laws provide for me. It's a matter of quality of life, and I enjoy living where I'm living, and Paramus enjoys, the town that I live in, enjoys a special relationship with the business community. And we have the best of both worlds, and I want to keep it that way.
Assemblywoman, the governor said that appealing the Blue Laws in Bergen County will generate some $65 million in revenue that will help offset his and balance his budget. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, listen, I know that we are coming into some very tough budget items right now. And when the governor delivered his address, I happened to flip through the budget, and I saw on page 86, $65 million with the repeal of the Blue Laws, and it caught me off guard as well. And I'm one who does not believe that $65 million can be generated because, first of all, if I take Paramus as an example of a community, most of our retail is clothing related, so I cannot see any more money being generated. So that's a concern that I have. But you know, I do have some legislation out there which I would gladly discuss with you in regard to finding out if this is true or not true.
I just want to correct, you're opposed to repealing the Blue Laws.
Absolutely,
right.
to repealing the Blue Laws, excuse me, yes.
Right, and actually if the Blue Laws were actually repealed under the Republican governor's plan, how could this affect the quality of life for the people really in Bergen County and Paramus?
Well, Sunday provides us the one day that we can freely go from one end of town to the other end of town, and that's very important. But I also think of the working family, and I know that I've talked to many workers that do work in Paramus, and they ask me to please continue the fight to make sure that the Blue Laws are never repealed because they want to enjoy that one day that they have with their families, and I think that's very, very important.
Assemblywoman, this issue has been put before the voters many times, hasn't it?
Yes, several times, and overwhelmingly supported. Blue Laws have been supported overwhelmingly, and therefore, to see it placed in a budget offends me because this is the people's right. The people have decided that they want the Blue Laws in their county, and how I truly am offended that the state can assume that we do not want to live in this way.
Great point.
And what is being done by the state legislators like yourself who are against repealing the Blue Laws?
Well, I had a bill out there, and I just dropped the bill, in fact, and it says that stores will have to report their sales tax by community. For example, if there's a Macy's, a Neiman Marcus, and we know that there are several locations in the state, I would like to see that reported by community so that I could show that Bergen County, you know, specifically the town that I live in, Paramus generates more sales tax than any other community in the state. And I would like to show that 65 million projection for sales tax. Personally, I think the state owes us 65 million.
Assemblywoman, even if Bergen County's residents overwhelmingly support keeping the Blue Laws, how exactly will the governor do away with Bergen County's ban on Sunday shopping? Would it require new legislation from him?
I would say would have to require new legislation, but once again, I say that it's up to the people in Bergen County, and we've already had a referendum twice with overwhelming support. So I personally, I am taken back that he would take away the people's rights. So I could imagine the people in Bergen County will rise up and say, you know, you're not going to change our lifestyle.
Now, there's a group called the New Jersey Retail Merchants Association, and they say the state may be losing business to New York State because of the Sunday ban on shopping. What's your thoughts on this and that survey that we even have not seen here?
Well, we haven't seen it either. And I can only say that there's only so much income. There's only so much income that people can spend. And our people have decided that we can do it in 6 days. And if anyone wants to go on that 7th day and go shop in New York, they can be my guest, but I don't think that we are losing revenue. And it would cost our community considerable amount of money for law enforcement and for emergency services. And where would that money come from? So any money gained would be lost by providing the services.
Absolutely. You know, the governor says that he has a legal opinion that states that shopping on Sundays at the Xanadu Project in the Meadowlands would be allowed regardless of the Bergen County blue laws. Could this happen?
I don't see how it could happen, and I believe that when Xanadu was first talked about, that this was given into consideration, they understood the Sunday blue laws. So I don't see that as being a possibility.
Right, and actually a number of Bergen County legislators and Freeholder Vice Chair Calabrese actually held a press conference on the day of the announcement of this at the Bergen Town Center. And I know you were supportive of that as well. So everybody was unified in the opposition to that. But let's clarify the sales tax. We need to remember that the sales tax is not on clothes. So we do have a lot of people shopping who come from New York State to really take advantage of the ban on sales tax for clothes. So there really isn't going to be a lot of revenue made up, just particularly on clothes.
You're absolutely right, County Executive, and I think that's where that $65 million was totally miscalculated.
Okay, and now tell us about that, more about the legislation that you proposed, where it's going to,
well, I'm hoping that that it will be noticed in May, and I'm hoping that it will be part of the budget, because I do believe that you need to have the facts at your hand. We do know that our zip code in Paramus is #1 in generating sales throughout the nation, and you know, businesses want to come settle in Paramus. They want to be in Bergen County. And they understand that when they come here, it is 6 days. This is an understanding that has been between the residents and between our business community.
Right.
Yeah, something when I have lots of feedback from the residents, and I'm sure that you're getting some of that same feedback. I don't get much support for the repeal of the blue laws. How about you? Do you get any of that?
I don't get any support for it, and in fact, even the local smaller communities that surround Paramus are very much, you know, in favor. Please, they're saying to me, fight for the blue laws, because their traffic and their way of life is also impacted.
You know, I had the opportunity to speak to a small business owner who argued the point of opening, and I said, if opening the malls on Sunday is allowed, that will ultimately hurt those small local business owners. So I don't think that do you agree with that assessment?
I agree with you 100%. And as I said, it's worked for us. Why would we change something when it works for us and it still enjoys so much support?
And actually, if they were to open on Sunday, it's only for 6 hours. Isn't that how they usually do it in other counties? 12 to 6 or 12 to 5 or sometimes 11 to 5?
I would want to see it 1 hour open. That's how strongly I know that my residents feel about that. And I'm not really getting any letters in support, you know, because generally people will email and when they feel very passionately, and the emails that I am getting certainly are saying, please maintain the blue laws.
Now, the Xanadu project, the other concern is actually the Giants and the Jets owners, Wellington Mara and the Johnson family, are opposed to the governor's plan to change the blue laws. Is the state legislature going to act on any of those recommendations through the Xanadu project? Their concern is that they already have football games on Sunday, and it would really almost be a nightmare if they were to open up malls as well. on Sunday, and hopefully in the future when Xanadu is open to have a Xanadu Mall and football game going on.
Yeah, I would think that Sunday would be a nightmare,
Right.
and it would be something that we would certainly have to avoid. And listen, I want to see Xanadu succeed. It's something that has been built. I did go in and I did see what was in there, and we need it to succeed, and I can't see any reason why it cannot succeed. But I think it can do it on 6 days as well.
And I think that was the agreement when it was built, that it would not be open.
Absolutely.
So what has changed? How did that happen? We were asking for that illegal opinion. In fact, the freeholders haven't even received it,
We
right?
have not.
No, and I have not received it as well. And I think it's all in regard to the budget and trying to generate revenue. And I think we have to always remember that we need a sense of balance. And sometimes I think that we forget our sense of balance, that we have to balance our quality of life along with generating revenue.
Assemblywoman, given the fact that we are not getting much support for the repeal of the blue laws, how would you feel about putting it up for a referendum once again?
And once again, I would have to say that I think that would be very costly. And any time that you put something on the ballot, it's going to cost the taxpayer money. And I believe the last time it was by 80,000 votes, so I don't think much has changed. And if I had to judge it by my emails, I would say that a referendum would be out of the question at this point.
A waste of time and
Waste of
resources.
time.
Well, and also the
Waste of
governor has
time.
already proposed a number of referendums, and I know there are local officials who are proposing referendums on other issues. So, and we may even be too far gone because the Retail Merchants Association, we haven't even received the report. So how do we process that information?
And and the retail merchants, obviously, listen, I can understand where they're coming from and whom they represent, but we have to remember that it is the residents who live here. And we have enjoyed a wonderful balance. I love business, I love retail. We certainly need them in Paramus, but I think they enjoy doing business in a community because it is 6 days. I do not think it would generate much more employment either. The only kind of employment that I could see happening would be part-time employment. So I think that figure is also exaggerated.
And even those part-time employees need a day off to spend time with their
Absolutely.
families, don't you agree?
Family, to me, is number one, and it gives us a day to not shop. We are very consumer related, and I understand that, but to have one day where someone can be with their family is extremely important, and when we know that families are finding it tough enough with both parents working, so let's at least provide one day where the entire family can be together.
Now, has the administration given you any information in terms of their surveys where if they were going to open up on 2 days during the weekend, there would be more sales? If you're going to buy a refrigerator on Saturday, how does it open up on Sunday mean you're going to buy another refrigerator? How does that, have they given you any feedback on that?
I have no information in regard to that, and I get what you get when you pick up the newspaper the next day.
Well, thank you, Assemblywoman Connie Wagner, and we'll be right back with more of Inside Bergen, so please stay with us.
Ever think about who will answer your 911 call in a medical emergency? Many times, the people who respond are no strangers. They're your neighbors, friends, relatives, and coworkers. They're dedicated to helping people. They respond at all hours, in all kinds of weather, and are trained to handle any emergency.
They're also volunteers. They could be you.
To find out how you can join the thousands of other EMS volunteers, contact the Bergen County Law and Public Safety Institute. If you don't, who will?
Hey, Zachary.
Ready?
You looking good? Great hit.
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete? 1 in 16,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn the signs. Go to autismspeaks.org.
Hi, I'm Bergen County Executive Dennis McNerney. In these tough economic times, Bergen County can help you. Programs such as free community transportation, Meals on Wheels for seniors and the disabled, job training, counseling through our one-stop career center, veteran services, an office for children, home buying assistance, and senior services. All geared to ensure the well-being of your family and to enhance our quality of life here in Bergen. So come on in, our doors are always open. Bergen County serving you. Welcome back to Inside Bergen. I'm County Executive Dennis McNerney. My co-host is Bergen County Freeholder Elizabeth Calabrese, and we've been discussing Bergen County's blue laws and the governor's recent plan to repeal them.
Our next guest is Richard La Barbiera, a councilman from the borough of Paramus. Paramus is often referred to as the crossroads of Bergen County. It's also known for many shopping venues. Welcome, Councilman La Barbiera.
Thank you for having me this afternoon, Freeholder.
It's a pleasure.
And County Executive.
Okay, and the merchants, you know about the New Jersey Retail Merchants Association argues that repealing the blue laws will bring in $65 million in extra revenue. What's your position on that study?
I have to believe this study is self-serving and it's flawed, obviously to their benefit at the detriment of the residents of Bergen County, especially Paramus, which is ground zero when it comes to this issue. The $65 million, in order to generate that in sales tax revenue, on average would mean that $20 million of non-exempt sales would have to be generated every Sunday for 52 weeks. The numbers don't make sense, especially in today's environment where people only have so much money. The amount of money to be spent will not grow proportionately.
So when you mean non-exempt, so that one day on Sunday, new revenue has to be brought in, not for clothes and not for shoes or belts, but for other items.
That's correct, and that $20 million would have to be non-exempt sales and could not include those exempt items that you cite.
So that would be gross sales? Or?
That would be gross non-exempt sales.
Mm-hmm. And do we even have a number of what the average is on a Saturday?
That I don't have, no.
Right, and then there's even talk with, Christmas and 4th of July sometimes falls on a Sunday like this year. So the problem is, though, since it's in the budget on July 1st, they have to figure out a way to get it out of there.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Councilman, Paramus has its own borough ordinance.
Yes, it does.
Regarding blue laws. Why are they so necessary in Paramus, if you could and why should they remain in place?
The history of the blue laws in Paramus really goes back to 1957, 1958, when the first two malls were actually being built in Paramus as well as in the country. Those two malls were the Bergen Mall, which is now known as the Bergen Town Center, and the Garden State Plaza, which is now known as Westfield Plaza. Mm-hmm. At that time, I guess our forefathers were pretty smart, and they recognized the importance of preserving quality of life if we were to go forward with so much retail, especially in Paramus. So in exchange for creating that critical mass, Paramus thought it was essential that we afford the residents that one day of peace and quiet to maintain the quality of life. And that's been the one item that has kept that balance in check, quality of life and successful commercial businesses.
They had foresight, did they not?
Yes, they did,
Yeah.
to their credit.
I've heard people say that if the stores were open for shopping on Sunday, that this could actually increase property
Absolutely,
taxes.
absolutely. I mentioned quality of life. Quality of life would obviously go down. As I was driving the streets the other day on Sunday, running to the local merchant for my bagel and coffee, I saw a family riding a bike. I don't think they could do that on a Sunday. If we were to have retail open on a Sunday, obviously that quality of life would go away. And in exchange, we would have additional police out there, as well as our emergency services, which would result in increased property taxes at the expense of the resident.
And not only that, all the other services as well. The roads would have to be continued
Absolutely.
to be improved, snow removal, the judges for
And
the
I think the
crime.
math would be real simple. Quality of life goes down, property taxes go up, property values would then follow and go down.
Yeah. What are the residents of Paramus? How are they taking this? How do they feel? What are you hearing?
I've yet to come across a resident that supports this. This is something that has made Paramus such an attractive community for so long. The Paramus residents have relied upon it, just as the commercial properties have. The commercial properties cannot ignore that with this setup, and only 6 days a week, they remain the #1 zip code, not just in New Jersey, but in the country,
Yeah, good point.
07652.
In terms of retail sales?
Retail sales.
And there are major anchor stores throughout.
Absolutely, and going back to our forefathers, they were the ones that recognized in order for so much commercial property to be successful that we had to assemble a critical mass for them, which was provided in our planning, but in exchange for the blue laws.
So it was really planned out, going back to
Absolutely.
1957. Yes, you could have malls, but no shopping on
Absolutely, and that was the balance that keeps quality of life and successful business in check.
Sunday. And what has changed except until what you heard about, and how did you hear about the change?
I heard about it, I guess our state legislators, as they were working away in Trenton, going through the budget, they came across a line item, and then it spread like wildfire up here in Bergen County. We were all caught off guard, and we were actually very disappointed, especially here in Paramus, where the governor spent a lot of time this past election, especially in Paramus, with our Republican counterparts.
Now, did he ever mention it when I know he was in Paramus a number of times. Did he ever say campaigning that he was going to get rid of the blue laws?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. And I don't even know if he shared with his Republican counterparts, but I would say, how come our Republican counterparts did not instill in him the importance and sanctity of our blue laws?
Right, and what's the response on that?
The response has been throughout Paramus. It's been total shock. And who's this governor to tell us what to do? Right. And that's one thing that we're going to fight and ensure that he's not able to overturn here in Paramus.
Absolutely.
Councilman, what is the borough of Paramus willing to do or prepared to do to keep the blue laws in place?
Paramus will do anything and everything within their power. I think the mayor mentioned over his dead body. I don't think such extreme is necessary, I hope that's not the case. But as a council, we've put together an ordinance and sent it down, a resolution, sent it down to the state, strongly urging against such a repeal. And we're working closely with our local government officials, such as yourself at the county level, as well as Assemblywoman Wagner. And we're digging in and hopefully going to resist this surge.
You know, the last referendum, the blue laws were supported by over 80,000 voters. Do you feel that a referendum at this point would be a good idea?
I think a referendum at this point would be no different than, the outcome would be no different than what it was several years ago. And in today's tough fiscal times, I don't think we can afford such wasteful spending, putting forward a ridiculous referendum that I trust will go down like a lead balloon.
Absolutely.
And there are other referendums too this year. The governor wants to is looking to get a cap of 2.5% on the ballot as well, and I know there's other groups out there that are looking to do other referendums.
Where were all these great ideas in November?
Right,
and how come they weren't on the table?
Right.
Right. How's your law enforcement feel about the possibility of
our law enforcement, we're in difficult times, as everybody knows, and municipalities in particular are trying to do more with less. And over the past several years, our law enforcement, we've brought our numbers down to a point where we're just getting by. And I think if we were to have shops open on Sunday, that would no longer be the case. And as a result, we would have to go out and hire additional cops, et cetera, to cover those additional hours of shopping in the borough.
increased property taxes?
Increased property taxes at the expense of quality of life.
How about fire service? Same scenario.
Absolutely. Granted, fire service is something that we hope we never have to use, but the law of averages will tell us the more stores are open, the greater the chance that those services will be called upon, as well as our ambulance services.
Right, they're both volunteers, they do a great job, the ambulance and the fire.
Can't say enough about them.
And they need a day off too, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And Paramus is unique, it's the home of Bergen Community College.
Yes,
it has some terrific county parks, Saddle River Valley County Park and Van Son County Park. And I know a lot of people enjoy, throughout the county, love coming into Paramus and River Edge to Van Son County Park.
For good reason. Paramus, as much commercial as it has, as much residential properties as it has, it also has some magnificent parks. Believe it or not, Paramus has it has 90 holes of golf, including our Mantra Golf. There's not many communities in Bergen County and the state that can say such and have the additional retail as well as the quality residential properties. Parks, Van Son, it's the one of the jewels of Bergen County, we like to believe, and it's in our backyard.
Right, and you want to maintain that excellent quality of life.
Absolutely.
You know, there are some malls that are kind of far removed from the residential area, and that's not the case in Paramus, is it? Those malls are very close.
That's correct, and going back to our forefathers, I guess they laid it out and they created that critical mass that enables the business to be so successful. But they had to do that immediately adjacent to some of those residential properties. And again, I keep going back to the check that keeps the balance, and that is the blue laws.
And that's actually unique. While Paramus does have blue laws that are more strict than the county, also Midland Park is in the same situation as well, right?
That's correct.
And but you need to know that, and you know this, that gas stations are still open, grocery stores are still open, restaurants are still open, so it isn't like the entire town is shut down on a Sunday. It's just
That's correct.
necessities are available.
There are exceptions to the blue law. Such exceptions are the few that you mentioned: groceries, pharmaceutical, charity work. There are exceptions, and that people still can go out and get those basic necessities.
You know, it seems to me that the blue laws affect the entire county, certainly Paramus a little bit more so, but the entire county in the way of traffic. I mean, Route 17, major thoroughfare, on Saturday to get from point A, southern Bergen County, to point B would be much more difficult if people are visiting their family on
Absolutely
Sunday afternoon.
correct. Absolutely correct.
Just another point to consider.
And by the way, whether or not you know it, when people do go over those major corridors, whether it be 4 or 17, they do encounter traffic. They are then forced into our residential streets.
Right.
And that is something that obviously does not happen with the blue laws in place on Sundays.
Now, I know your council, as a councilman, you support the Freeholders Initiative in terms of getting that information. They haven't received the Retail Merchants Association report. You haven't seen that either, right?
That's correct.
Have they worked with you in any regard in gathering this information?
Obviously, the freeholders have worked on our behalf. The other party has not been cooperative, and for good reason, because they don't want to expose all their cards.
Right, so that transparency isn't there, and I know you support the Freeholders Initiative in terms of getting the information from Xanadu,
Absolutely.
too. The public records in terms of the legal documents that said they could change that. So
We support and much appreciate the work of the freeholders, as well as our local assembly people and senators are doing on behalf of not just Paramus, but all of Bergen County.
Right. And
Well, you know, the county executive and the freeholders are responsive to the voters, the residents of Bergen County. We're here to represent their interests. And their interest right now is to keep the blue laws in place. I look forward to working with you a little bit further and just make sure that those repeals are not jeopardized.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
well, that's all the time we have for now for this edition of Inside Bergen. I'd like to thank my co-host, Freeholder Vice Chairwoman Liz Calabrese, for being here. And I'd also like to thank our guests, Assemblywoman Connie Wagner, and of course, thank you, Paramus Councilman Richard LaBarbiera, for joining us as we talk about this important topic, keeping Bergen County's blue laws in place. Thank you again for watching Inside Bergen, and we look forward to seeing you next time.